The commendation email went out at 4:47 p.m., company-wide, over 100 names in the CC field, senior management, directors, people 3 levels above my team. It thanked Shane for his composure under pressure, for identifying the root cause of the outage, for steering the company away of what could have been millions in SLA penalties. I was the one who had found the root cause. I was the one who had walked him through it, step by step, screen shared, narrated out loud, while he watched and took notes. By the time I rejoined the main call, he had already told everyone it was my fault and his solution. I read the email twice. I closed my laptop. I sat in my home office for a long time without moving. Then I opened OBS Studio and started reading the documentation. Shane had been with the company for nearly 40 years. He was the guy everyone called when nothing else worked, the institutional memory, the untouchable. He saw a newer employee trying to climb past him. He didn't see someone who had spent 2 years quietly becoming the most capable person on the team for the software that was replacing everything he knew. He thought his reputation was a wall. It was a window. And I had just found the frame. He had one advantage over me: history. 40 years of it. In a room full of people who didn't work with us daily, that history carried more weight than anything I could say out loud. So I stopped planning to say things out loud. I work in software support for a large technology company, UK-based, global team, around 30 people. I joined with 7 years of prior experience, not green, but new to this company's ecosystem. Shane had been there since before I started secondary school. He was the team's institutional memory, the person everyone deferred to when a problem got genuinely obscure. For the first 2 years, that reputation was mostly deserved. Then the company shifted direction. New software, new applications, new infrastructure that none of us had touched before. I treated it as an opportunity. I put in the hours. I learned the new stack thoroughly. Shane treated it as an inconvenience. He stayed with the legacy tools. In team meetings, you could watch him recalibrate in real time. The slow realization that the thing that made him indispensable was becoming irrelevant, and that I was the one filling the gap he was leaving. He started making it personal shortly after that. Small things at first. Interrupting my late arrivals to calls, late because I was on customer lines, with pointed comments he'd never directed at anyone else. Email chains where he'd derail threads I'd started with complaints that had nothing to do with the subject. Subtle, deniable, consistent. I ignored it for 2 years. Then came the major incident, and I stopped ignoring it. The incident was serious. A recent patch had caused a cascading outage. Millions in SLA penalties were on the table if we didn't resolve it within the window. My manager split the team into working groups and paired me with Shane. I wasn't pleased. I was professional. We got on a call. Within 20 minutes, it was obvious he had done almost no work with the new application. Every check I asked him to run required full hand-holding, basic navigation. I stopped asking and shared my screen instead. I walked him through the entire diagnostic. I found the faulty patch. I explained every step. I even told him what I thought the rollback procedure would look like. Then his connection dropped. I assumed it was Skype being unreliable. I kept working. Our process required senior manager approval before any rollback. I documented everything and prepared to rejoin the main call. When I did, the incident manager was already speaking. Shane had returned to the group call. He had told over 100 people, including directors 2 and 3 levels above our team, that I had caused the outage through an error in the deployment process, that he had identified the fix, that I had refused to implement it. The incident manager didn't let me finish a sentence. "This is being logged. You'll be hearing from your manager." I tried to explain. "We'll discuss this later." There was no later. There was a verbal warning. There was a commendation email with Shane's name in the subject line. I went offline. I sat in my home office. I opened a browser and typed OBS Studio free download. I called him on Skype 2 days later. When he picked up, I told him I was recording. The platform notification appeared automatically. Both of us could see it. He was immediately careful, measured, sympathetic. "I'm sorry you feel that way. I think we should loop in our manager." I said I'd like to do that. I said, "Give me one moment." I stopped the Skype recording. "Skype isn't recording anymore," I said. "You know exactly what you did." The pause that followed was about 4 seconds long. "I'm perfectly within my rights to put you in your place." There it was. He kept going. Something about respect for tenure, about how people who'd been in a company for 40 years shouldn't have to justify themselves to someone who'd been there for 2. About how he was a few years from retirement and wasn't going to exhaust himself learning software he'd never need to use. I let him talk. He said he'd do it again without hesitation. I said I had one question before we wrapped up. "Have you ever heard of OBS?" He hadn't. "Google it," I said. I ended the call. Wow. What he didn't know, what Mel had told me laughing, and what I had already researched, was that OBS Studio records system audio independently of Skype. The platform notification only flags Skype's native recorder. OBS captures everything through the audio output. No notification, no flag, nothing visible on his end at all. The entire conversation was on my hard drive in lossless audio. Him telling me he was within his rights to put me in my place. Him explaining that he didn't intend to learn the new software. Him saying he would do it again. His messages started arriving within the hour. The first one was careful, almost corporate. He said he hoped we could resolve this between ourselves, that he'd been under pressure during the incident, that things had come out wrong. The second message dropped the professional register. He said that if he was fired, he would lose his retirement package, that he'd been counting on it, that he was asking me, colleague to colleague, not to escalate this. I read every message. I didn't reply to any of them. I forwarded the entire thread, along with the OBS recording, to HR, my manager, and the head of the department. Then I closed my laptop and made dinner. The investigation took 3 weeks. I wasn't involved in most of it. HR conducted interviews separately. They pulled the Skype logs from the incident call, which confirmed that Shane had rejoined the main call before I did, and that his account of events had preceded mine by several minutes. They pulled the screen share recording from our working session, which showed exactly who had navigated the diagnostic and who had watched. The OBS recording was the final document in the submission package. It contained his voice, his words, his explanation of his own motivations. Not under pressure, not in the heat of an incident, but in a quiet conversation 2 days later, when he believed the only record was the one he could see. He had told me he would do it again. He had told me he thought tenure entitled him to sabotage a colleague's career. He had told me, in his own words, that he had not bothered to learn the software he'd been evaluated on for 2 years. HR did not need to interpret any of it. The investigation produced a formal finding of gross misconduct on 3 counts. The first, deliberate misrepresentation during a major incident call, causing disciplinary action to be taken against a colleague without factual basis. The second, sustained pattern of targeted behavior toward the same colleague over a documented 2-year period, confirmed through team interviews and communication logs. The third, recorded admission of intent, his own statement that he had acted deliberately and would do so again. The verbal warning issued to me was formally withdrawn, expunged from my record. The notation was that the disciplinary action had been taken on the basis of false information provided by another employee. Shane was terminated for gross misconduct. Gross misconduct under UK employment law carries a specific consequence: immediate dismissal without notice, no notice period, no severance calculation based on length of service, 40 years of tenure, 0 severance. His request to convert the termination to early retirement, to preserve the package he'd been building for 4 decades, was reviewed by HR and rejected. The gross misconduct finding made him ineligible under the company's retirement benefit terms. The clause was standard. He had signed it 40 years ago and apparently never read it. The commendation issued during the incident was formally rescinded. A correction was sent to the same distribution list as the original, the same 100+ names, the same directors, the same senior management. It noted that the original commendation had been based on inaccurate information and was being withdrawn. His name appeared in the subject line again. Different context this time. The sequence in order. Shane sabotaged my reputation in front of 100 people and received a company-wide commendation for doing it. I downloaded a free piece of recording software and read 2 pages of documentation. The OBS recording captured a 4-minute conversation in which he explained his own misconduct in complete sentences. HR produced a gross misconduct finding on 3 counts. He was terminated without notice. 40 years of tenure. No severance. No retirement package. No early retirement conversion. The commendation was rescinded, and the correction went to the same distribution list as the original. The verbal warning on my record was formally withdrawn and replaced with a notation confirming it had been issued on false grounds. Mel told me later that he had tried to appeal the termination. The appeal panel reviewed the recording, the screen share logs, and the communication history. The appeal was denied in full. I'm still at the company. I have been for a decade now. I don't think about Shane often. When I do, it's usually when a new person joins the team and asks who to go to for the legacy tools. I give them a name, someone who actually knows the current stack, someone who has bothered to learn what the job requires now, not what it required 20 years ago. The institutional memory he spent 40 years building was gone inside a quarter. The software moved on. The team moved on. The commendation was rescinded. The only thing that lasted was the recording. 4 minutes of audio, captured by software he'd never heard of. On a call he thought had gone exactly as planned. He told me he would do it again. He got one chance to find out what that meant. Have you ever had someone use your own work against you and walk away with the credit? Tell me in the comments, and tell me, how long did you wait before you did something about it?